Okay, well, welcome everyone to the El Toro Beyond Cable Navigating the OTT Landscape webinar. We're thrilled to have you here with us today, and we have a lot of great content prepared. My name is Roni Lawson, and I will be one of your hosts today. I'm also joined by Gail Griggs, or as I like to refer to her, my partner in crime. Gail, do you care to share a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Ronnie. I am on the core operations team here at El Toro. I do a lot of our inventory management and a lot specifically with OTT and CTV, a lot which we'll be covering in today's webinar.
Thanks, Gail. I'll just add a quick tidbit too. I am on the customer experience team, and we will talk a little bit more later about what my specific team does. So just a little refresher and intro for those of you who may be new to El Toro. We were founded in 2013, and we are the leaders in ad tech and advanced analytics. We offer custom digital advertising solutions that allow our clients to identify and hyper target their desired audiences on a one-to-one level. And this is actually all done 100% cookie free. And that is a really big deal, especially given today's advertising landscape and the deprecation of cookies. So before we jump into our next section, I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A forum, and we will tackle them as we go throughout this webinar. Okay, so imagine videos going over the top of regular TV and on top of cable boxes that can reach you directly through streaming. That is OTT, or over the top. It's like having your favorite TV shows and movies delivered over the internet. And you can watch them on platforms like Disney Plus, Sling, Tubi TV, and Pluto TV. The best part about this is OTT doesn't rely on schedules. You can watch your favorite stuff whenever you want on any device in your home or on the go, day or night. So now that we've just had our chat about OTT, let's take a poll to see what your experience of purchasing OTT has been like. Has your experience been that you've never bought OTT media before? Have you bought some OTT media before? Do you regularly buy OTT media? Or is your budget primarily focused on buying OTT media? We'll take a minute to go through this. Okay, cool. So it looks like the majority of us have never actually bought OTT media. And this is a great opportunity because we'll talk about all kinds of great things here. We're going to dive into the distinction between OTT and CTV to better understand their unique cases for use and devices. So first off, let's explore use cases. Connected TV, or CTV, refers to the physical device supporting video streaming content. It's any internet-capable device connected to or embedded within a television. On the flip side, OTT refers to the method of delivering streaming video content over the internet. This bypasses traditional distribution channels like cable or satellite providers. Now, when it comes to devices, CTV lets you stream on smart TVs, Amazon Fire Stick, and Roku. Meanwhile, OTT uses dedicated devices or boxes connecting to standard displays like gaming consoles, internet-connected smart TVs, and specialized remotes. Some popular examples of OTT include Hulu, Netflix, ESPN, and Disney+. Now, let's test your knowledge. Let's walk through a scenario together and see if we can figure out which category this belongs in. So picture this. You are at home. You are watching Netflix on your Roku device. It's a little tricky. What was that? Yes, you're right. It's both. It's actually both. You are using a connected device, your Roku, to stream Netflix OTT. So this actually reminds me, Gail, do you remember that analogy about OTT?
Yes, I do. So being that El Toro is located in Louisville, Kentucky, we love bourbon here. So I have a bourbon analogy, and that is, I'm trying to make sure I don't say it wrong. All bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. All CTV is OTT, and not all OTT is CTV. So smaller parts of the greater whole, and that was an example that I really like to use to help further my understanding in the difference between OTT and CTV.
Thanks, Gail. We've just explored the distinction between CTV and OTT, and now it's time to extend our journey into the realm of cable TV versus OTT. So let's kick this off by diving into accessibility. Cable TV users are familiar with the traditional subscription model. This requires them to subscribe to cable or satellite providers. However, OTT users have the freedom of pulling content directly over the internet. This enables them to stream on any device with a screen. The delivery mechanisms are also how these two differ. Cable TV relies on broadcast-based delivery, while OTT takes a more versatile approach. It allows viewership on desktops, mobile devices, tablets, game consoles, smart TVs, and much more. When it comes to advertising, though, cable TV often involves purchasing a specific spot within the stream of content. Geographic targeting is limited and tied to the content being broadcasted. Alternatively, OTT advertising is a game changer. It is flexible, and the content is determined by what the users in your audience are already streaming. Plus, OTT ads are unskippable. It presents additional engagement opportunities, such as clicks and interactive ads. Let's unravel the advantages that make OTT a game changer in the realm of content consumption. First on our list is the concept of co-viewing. Imagine multiple people gathered around a CTV device, watching ads together. This phenomenon not only fosters a shared experience, but it allows advertisers to reach more users within a household simultaneously. In fact, the average ad viewed on a connected TV is seen by 1.44 people. Even though a single impression is served, there's potential to reach more than one person. Now, we're going to talk about ad fraud. With OTT through El Toro, we are stepping up the game. It's estimated that roughly 20% of CTV impressions are fraudulent. But fear not, because IP targeting through El Toro takes a stand against this ad fraud by targeting real households. Last, but certainly not least, we're going to jump into completion rates. So OTT boasts completion rates soaring as high as 90%. Higher completion rates translate to brand awareness and retention. So, from this visual, we can see a clear pattern. The majority of adults in the US are embracing the world of streaming video content, irrespective of their generation. While we can see here that baby boomers show a narrower gap between streaming services and cable TV, the overarching trend is indisputable. Streaming services lead the way, followed by cable TV and network TV across all generations. Let's take a moment to absorb the significance of this shift. Over 60% of consumers in the US use CTV devices to stream content every single day. That is really a testament of the undeniable popularity of streaming services in our daily lives. Now that we're all armed with this understanding, let's explore further the relationship between ad-supported and ad-free content. The data we're about to explore will illuminate why leveraging OTT to reach this demographic is not just beneficial, but it's actually a strategic move in today's dynamic landscape. According to Magnite's research, we're witnessing a fascinating trend where streamers are indulging in a mix of ad-free and ad-supported content. What's truly remarkable here is the dominance of ad-supported environments. It's capturing the vast majority of audiences' share. Roughly 9 out of 10 streamers are immersing themselves in content that bundles with ads. This showcases the appeal of this model. But the story doesn't end here. Nearly half of all streamers are exclusively tuning in to ad-supported content. That means a significant portion of the streaming audience is choosing the ad-supported experience. This is a testament to the effectiveness of ad-supported content in today's streaming landscape. Personally, I use mostly ad-free streaming, but Gail, before I kick it over to you to discuss the streaming wars, what does your streaming mix look like?
Yeah, I actually fall in this middle column here. Half of the streaming services I use are ad-free, and the other half are ad-supported. So I'm definitely in that 39%. Taking it from here, I wanted to spend a moment to talk about some of the really big players in the OTT space. The streaming giants are going to be household brands that we are all familiar with and likely even use. Some of the examples I have displayed here: Netflix, Disney, Hulu, Max, formerly known as HBO Max, and Peacock. You can usually recognize these players by their ability to bring on exclusive content, sporting their higher end user experiences, or their ability to take on a large share of the global market. These giants in the space, and why I particularly wanted to talk about them, they help dictate the direction that the industry will move in. We've already seen this impact of change in Disney and Netflix's 2023 decision to offer an ad-supported tier to their service. And with the information that Roni just covered on the majority of users being accepting of the ad-supported tiers in their daily streaming, this change will likely become a standard in streaming, and it's already moving to that direction quickly. And just from the changes we've seen in the last year, Disney and Netflix have been a little slow to fully integrate their inventory into the mass market that most advertisers traditionally buy from, but we have been really excited to see their progress in the programmatic space, and we expect to see their inventory in our regular offerings soon. To continue the conversation of inventory, I actually wanted to cover a commonly asked question that we get, which we will have on the next slide here, which is, which publishers are commonly found in El Toro's OTT inventory? El Toro works with hundreds of OTT publishers. This slide showcases some of our top publishers. I do also want to highlight that we serve to hundreds of local news stations, all of which I could not display on a single slide. But if you are running an OTT campaign with us that is more geographically specific, maybe a single city or a single state versus a nationwide campaign, then it is very likely you will see those local news stations in your reporting. To continue to further narrow the topic of inventory, as we all know, hopefully, this is a really big year for political advertising. And I wanted to talk about that just a little bit further. Political content is considered a sensitive category by publishers. So publishers can decide to reject creatives due to their political nature and even due to their specific political leaning. An example of this is a conservative news network is not likely to accept ads with a liberal leaning to them. Because of this system, there is less inventory available for political advertisers compared to regular advertisers. On top of that, political inventory has a higher demand during its peak season. This makes political inventory more scarce, which increases its value to the political advertisers during its high demand. The operations team at El Toro works year-round to ensure that the most amount of inventory is made available to our political advertisers so that they can reach that desired scale. But if you are planning on running a political campaign this year, I highly recommend that you connect with your account manager to discuss our best practices for setting up a political OTT campaign for success in this 2024 election cycle. So to talk a little bit about post-campaign measurement. Because you are using IP targeting with El Toro, we are able to accurately attribute conversions with what's called our matchback analysis. If you are not familiar with our matchback analysis, it's a post-campaign analysis where we compare the households that we served ads to versus the sales and conversion data to show the sales that directly resulted from El Toro's campaigns. We can do this directly on our OTT campaigns or any of our other media types. This will help you clarify a true return on ad spend and is especially powerful in the OTT industry because of many of the key pain points that we're seeing in this industry right now. Some examples being data fragmentation, limited visibility into data, inconsistent measurement standards, limited transparency, and of course, the challenge of tracking cross-device behavior. Because of this matchback approach that we offer, advertisers can overcome these challenges with a more comprehensive view of their performance for OTT using this offline conversion analysis. So I wanted to give that something for us to talk about. Roni's team actually is the customer experience team. I think she mentioned that earlier, but they're the main team that handles the matchback requests that you send in. Roni, did you want to add anything about that?
Yeah, sure. So the customer experience team and we communicate with clients about matchbacks and we run standard reporting for initiatives. And we're actually the team that you chat with if you submit any support requests. So yes, thanks, Gail.
Yeah. So you'll likely be talking to Roni when you see some of those requests. Before we get into the next slide, I actually wanted to put out a poll to see which direction you guys want to take the remaining part of the webinar. We can talk more specifically about creative requirements, so talking a little bit more in detail about those specific creative specs, or we can talk about strategy best practices for creatives and some of the recommendations I have when you have those creatives ready or setting those up. So I'll give everyone a minute just to answer that, and that will determine where we go from here. Best practices by a landslide. Okay, awesome. That was the one I was hoping you guys would pick anyways, too. So we will jump into that slide. So creative best practices. I've got my 4 big points here. The first one being, if you've seen our creative specs, you see that we accept both a 15 and 30-second ad slot. Exactly 15 and 30-second ad slots I'd like to add, but we highly recommend including both 15 and 30 seconds if possible, because those two combined take up the mass majority of available ad slots in the OTT space. So having both will give you the maximum amount of inventory availability. To the point of inventory availability, big name publishers, like we talked about earlier, will actually require higher quality ads. This gets into that competitive advantage of having a higher quality user experience. They actually really hone in on having only higher quality ads on their service as well. So if you want to be able to access content from premium providers like Hulu or NBC, for example, consider following our optimal performance creative specs that comes in our traditional creative specs page. This is I especially want to reiterate the need for a good bit rate on your creatives, because a higher bit rate will give you more access to that more premium inventory. For bitrate, more specifically, if you haven't heard of it before, it represents the amount of data transmitted per unit of time in a creative, and this will directly impact the quality of the creative that is visible to a user. So having a higher quality bitrate or just a higher bitrate will help ensure smooth playback for the end user, and it will prevent that buffering lag that a lot of end users get with lower bitrate creatives. Something else that we recommend if you're looking to get some additional engagement metrics, because CTVs don't get a lot of clicks, though the other devices in an OTT channel can get those clicks. If you want to see more engagement metrics from those CTV devices, we highly recommend including a QR code that is visible in the duration of your video. I recommend doing the whole duration of your video, but depending on your creative strategy, you may only want it at the end or at a certain part of the ad. And you'll want to have an enticing call to action so that the user watching the ad has incentive to go and scan that QR code right then and there versus going and checking out your website, your company at a later point in time. So you can see those interactions through the QR code scans. And we see this a lot for clients that have discounts, sales, or limited availability. So that's been very successful for those clients that we've had use that. And then the last one, because we talked about political, I want to reiterate, if you've run political ads, you know that you need a paid for by statement visible to pass the creative audit. But we always recommend that we go over the top with that and make sure that is prominently displayed and visible for more than a couple of seconds so that it can get through that creative audit process faster and we can get those ads serving faster for you. So that is going to wrap up the slides that we have content for, but we do have a live Q&A. So we are going to give everyone a minute to get in their questions, and then we are going to answer some of them live. Okay, so the first question we got is, can you elaborate on how IP targeting alleviates the 20% CTV fraud. If you remember earlier in this webinar, we mentioned that 20% of CTV ads are considered to be fraudulent, and we get around this more specifically by using IP targeting. There are other measures that we use at El Toro as well to prevent ad fraud, but a lot of what we call sophisticated ad fraud comes from spoofed IPs. So these hacksters are making up fraudulent ad IPs that don't get checked in that bidding process when we're looking at those available impressions. And because they're fake, they're not going to those real IPs. But since we are identifying those IPs before we even go to auction, and that then is a pre-bid filter for what we're only going to look at, we're going to bypass all of those fraudulent IP impressions with that. We do other measures as well to ensure that other more sophisticated methods of sending fraudulent impressions don't slip by. We only buy in a private marketplace, and we typically work directly with our publishers and sellers to curate our inventory for all of our clients. We've even tested this against some of our other brand safety partners and found that our inventory hasn't really pulled any fraudulent impressions, even with brand safety measurement standards on. So it is the safest method of buying, and having only real identified IPs on top of that allow for a fraudulent-free IP space. So that was a great question. I love talking about that one. Let's see what other questions we have.
I can grab one if you want me to, Gail.
Yeah, of course.
I see a couple in here about success stories using OTT, and I'll just kind of bundle them together. We have actually included, and it will be on the next slide, a QR code that has some actual case studies from initiatives that have run with us in the past. So you'll be able to check those out. So just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, we've got some great case studies out. Another question that we do get asked is, that kind of pairs along with that, is what are some of our top verticals for OTT at El Toro? We have quite a few, so I pulled just kind of some of our more recent verticals for 2024. We've got grocery, retail, auto, education, furniture, and HVAC. We actually both have case studies for, something that Roni was just talking about. Law, real estate, political, of course, advocacy, insurance, travel, small business, retail, and many more. So those were some of the more recent ones that we've had, but we've seen a lot of verticals over the years.
I actually see another good one. Can I pair El Toro products with OTT? And there's a long, elaborate answer, but the short one is yes. You can actually pair OTT with any existing El Toro products, such as IP Plus, Digital New Movers, Venue Replay, and Digital Canvassing, to name a few.
We're getting a lot of questions here, so I'm trying to make sure I can.
Me too.
I'm trying to make sure I can bundle them all into like single questions to give you the most beneficial answers with the time that we have remaining. Let's see. Roni talked about pairing our OTT products. What are some good strategies or use cases for OTT, especially if this is newer for you, or if you're coming from traditional TV or even more traditional advertising like direct mail? A good thing to think about when you're thinking about OTT is thinking about classic TV advertising. Any strategy that you've seen on classic cable is always going to pair perfectly in the OTT space. I do want to highlight that a big advantage of OTT we've seen is for like retention and recruitment campaigns are a great example. So campaigns that are serving ads on a TV are more likely to impact those multiple users. That's that co-viewing stat that Roni was talking about earlier. So if you were hiring, for example, and you wanted to highlight maybe an employee benefit or sign-on bonus, that spouse of the potential target would also be an additional influence to help further that conversion when the ad is co-viewed in that case. So that's an example that I like to talk through. That's something that's been really successful for our clients focusing on retention and recruitment. But really anything that works in typical TV, brand awareness, product retail, services, they pair really well in the OTT space. It's just defining how you want to craft that message for that 15 or that 30-second slot that you're building. Let's see, Roni, did you see any other good ones?
I'm still scrolling. I don't see anything that haven't bundled yet.
Is there a complete list of local news channels available to view? We are actually updating our publisher list for 2024, and we should have that available pretty soon. So you should be able to get that list here in a little bit. That's a good question. Does El Toro negotiate private marketplace deals with publishers? Or are you just buying inventory on the open market? 0% of our OTT inventory is bought on the open market or the open exchange. We do all of our inventory buying through those pre-negotiated private marketplace deals. We work directly with publishers, SSPs, ad exchanges, whatever's going to get you the most amount of scale for your inventory so you can capture those users where they're streaming. That's what we're going to seek out, and we maintain those relationships pretty thoroughly with those publishers. So that's a great question. And I think that is going to wrap up our time. Yeah, we are coming pretty close on time for the day. We did receive a lot of questions, so if your questions did not get answered today, we will reach out and follow up with you on that. This will conclude our webinar. We have compiled some OTT one-sheets, this deck, and other OTT case studies that are going to be available through this QR code that you see on your screen. If you would like more information, please reach out to your sales executive or visit eltoro.com/contact, or give us a buzz at 502-535, or sorry, I read that wrong, 502-353-0390. This webinar has also been recorded and will be shared with everyone who signed up. Roni, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we're all excited that you joined us today, and you can join us again in our upcoming webinar, Unlocking the Power of Political Data with El Toro and L2 Data. And that's on March the 7th. So keep an eye out on our socials to get more details, because we hope to see you there. So thanks again for joining us.